Hi friends. There is a lot of anxiety-producing, stressful stuff going on these days, isn't there? Well, I'm not going to talk about any of that today. I don't know about you, but I need a little break from the news cycle and all of the emotions that it evokes. So I'm going to keep it light today. As you know, over the last couple of days, I've been thinking a lot about baptism, and that got me to reminiscing. Every baptism that a pastor officiates is special, but some are more memorable than others. For example, about 21 years ago, I was pastoring a small church, and a family brought their new daughter to be baptized. And they had invited their entire extended family to come to the service, which doubled or tripled our worship attendance for that day. So it was exciting and a little nerve-wracking. The entire service was built around the theme of baptism, including the sermon. So I was in the middle of preaching and I said something like, the primary actor in baptism is not the pastor or the person being baptized, but the Holy Spirit. And the point I was going to make is that baptism is a means of grace, not a work of obligation. Well, before I could make that point, a grumpy old man who was a member of our congregation out loud interrupted me and said, "Well, that's not right." As you might imagine, that was a moment of surprise for the congregation and for me, and a moment of panic for me. Now, certainly I had had people disagree with what I had said in a sermon before, but never during the sermon. So with all the calm that I could muster with a pounding heart, I said, well, actually, no, baptism isn't about the work that we do. It's about the work that the Holy Spirit is doing in us. And he interrupted and countered me again. And so I restated my point. And before I could finish, he interrupted me a third time. And he said, well, if we didn't have the baby, there'd be nobody here to baptize. Well, I had to concede that point. So I gave him the validity of that physical point while I tried to restate again my theological point. And ultimately, we got that baby baptized. Later on in the afternoon, I was at that family's house for a party for their daughter's baptism. And one of the extended family members came up to me and he said, "It is so cool that people can talk to you and ask questions right in the middle of the sermon." And I probably said something like, well, it doesn't happen very often, but in my mind, I was thinking it better never happen again. I've also had the privilege of baptizing all of my nieces and nephews on my side of the family. I remember when I baptized my oldest niece, she was wearing a beautiful baptismal gown. It was white and satiny and slippery. Between her gown and my robe, I could hardly hold on to that kid. And then just last year, about a year ago exactly, the end of February, I baptized my youngest niece. She was going through a stage when she didn't like anybody but mommy, my sister, to hold her. So we knew we had to act fast. So I took her from my sister, I sprinkled the water on her head, and she gave me this look like, how could you do that to me? But she didn't cry. Until I walked her out into the congregation to introduce her to her new church family, and then the waterworks started. She wasn't very enthusiastic about the family photos after the service either. This one is one of my favorites. My dad is mimicking her face. I'm happy to say that she has grown out of that phase, and she is one of the happiest children I know. Well, thanks for traveling down memory lane with me today. I'll see you again tomorrow.